All right, let's get started. So welcome to my DC wrap up. Thanks for taking a few minutes of your time and your day to jump in here and learn a little bit about the personal care industry, about why I went to DC, about why this is so important to you, and a little bit of behind the scenes and all that jazz. So thank you. And thank you if you had any part in helping me get there, whether you were cheering me on, whether you supported by supporting my business, all of the ways that you support me, I just appreciate it so much. So can't wait to give you a little overview, kind of bring you up to speed on some of the legislation that's out there and just kind of the highlight reel from the trip. So let me share my screen here with you. I've got a few little slides for you. Let's see here, if I can get to the right page. Right here. All right, it's there. Okay, so again, this was an amazing trip and just so full circle for me. And so I'm going to just try to capsulize it for you so that it doesn't take me 2 days to explain it to you. So it was whirlwind. First off, it was 48 hours back to back, just like from one thing to the next. There wasn't even time to think, look up or whatever. We just, you'll kind of see the highlights of that. So we had 200 advocates there on this trip. We fit into 4 buses that we were moved and shuffled around DC. We held over 60 meetings the day that we did our advocacy day. And it was just super exciting to be part of. Part of what I wanted to share with you was just a little bit of the full circle of this, because you may not realize I've been participating in this advocacy work for about 6 years now, and actually maybe about 5 of actual advocacy stuff. But I've done stuff on the local level, meeting with our representatives here locally in San Diego, La Jolla, Oceanside. And then I have participated at the state level on a lobby day in Sacramento for legislation that was being passed and promoted here in California. And so getting to have those experiences and then getting to go to DC and see that next piece of what it takes to get something passed at a federal level was just super exciting. And it just, you'll hear bits and pieces of that as I go along sharing the information. But here are pictures of me here on the left from my last visit locally. That was in 2019. And then 2019 when I went to Sacramento for the day. And it was also exciting because that legislation passed. And I also learned a little bit about the process behind all of that. So like that day that we went to advocate in Sacramento for a couple of pieces of legislation in California, one in particular that was about the fragrance loophole. If you're not familiar with that, fragrance is a word that is protected. It's considered, can't think of the word. Anyways, proprietary, right? So a company does not have to disclose their fragrance ingredients. Problem is, that's where a lot of the toxic chemicals hide, is within fragrance. So when you see fragrance on a label, that's like one of the first things you should just get out of your life, because there's absolutely no transparency on that. The front of your label might say there's no phthalates, but if there's fragrance in there, you're probably going to find phthalates in that product. So that's like one of the loopholes we're trying to close. And we actually did close in California. Takes a little while for things to get fully implemented, but they are in progress now here in this state. And it's also cool because legislation that passes in California often has a domino effect and impacts others, because our state is such a huge economy in and of itself. And so if laws are written one way in California, you're not going to formulate differently for some other state. You're going to it's going to be beneficial to everyone. So, but that day that we actually lobbied, we were so confident after all those meetings. We had such a great day, and everybody was so receptive, and it all played out like we would have expected. And then about a week later, we found out that it just was gone. The bill, no more bill, it's over. And we were like, what are you talking about? Like, we were so sure it was going to fly through, and it didn't. But one of the gals that was coordinating the event she assured us, she's like, this is part of the process. Don't you fear, it will come back around, and next time it's going to pass. And sure enough, it did. A year later, circle back around, and the legislation moved forward. So bringing that experience into this DC experience just makes me even more excited, because I know the work that we did, no matter what happens immediately with it, it's a coming. And it was just so cool to be part of it, because we have not passed any piece of major federal legislation in the personal care products space as far as ingredient safety and all of that stuff since 1938. It's been over 80 years. So just getting to be part of this, which is going to result in something, and it's a step in the right direction. So anyway, that's the backstory on my experience. So we arrived the night before it all began, and we got put into this room where we just a lovely reception and everything. It was so nice. And I think I knew 3 people going into this event. 2 of them are in the bottom screen there. They're part of my larger organization. And the gal in the top in the black and white photo was my roommate for the event. And anyway, one of the things I love about Beautycounter is just the women that are brought into this, just because they're so passionate, so professional, so I don't know, articulate, and they just care. They're just good people. And it was such a mix of people. We had all different kinds of ages. We had, all different kinds of professions, doctors, lawyers, stay-at-home moms, people from big cities, people from little towns, and just from all across the United States, all brought together with this one common purpose. So it's people that you would have never met in any other situation. And it was just, that was one of the things that was just a highlight, super cool, because these people are now friends for life, and it doesn't even matter where we come from or what we do or don't have in common. We're all brought together by this common mission, and that's pretty cool. Take my reminders off the screen here for you. Okay, so on to the next. This is just more pictures from that night. The gal in the middle is Greg Renfrew. She's the woman that started Beautycounter, and she's an amazing woman. You'll see a quick little video from her in a moment, but she started Beautycounter not to start another beauty company. She didn't really want to do that, although she did want to create a company that provided really high performing, wonderful, clean cosmetics and skincare. But she wanted to use business as a force for good. She wanted to create a B corporation that was mission driven and that was going to drive change in the industry all the way up to the legislative level, because that's what needs to happen to see this industry change. So, so she created Beautycounter as a counter to the beauty industry, right? To create a movement and to get people engaged in creating and moving this change. So she's dynamic, wonderful leader, and you're getting dizzy. Okay, so on to the next morning. We didn't stay up too late that night because we knew we had a full day ahead. They sent us home with a packet of bills and our schedule and what our assignments were and who we were meeting with and all of that stuff the night before. And we woke up the next morning raring to go. So first thing, this is a scene from our meeting room where my group met that day. I'll get a little bit more into that. But before we did that, we all loaded up on those buses I told you about, and we went to the Lincoln Memorial, where we did a group photo, which was super cool. And while we were there, you can see Greg off to the right speaking to all of us. And I'm going to show you a quick video from her. Hopefully you'll be able to hear it okay. But it's about 2 minutes long. So just a brief little thing, but just kind of puts the framework on the work that we did that day. And I thought it would be cool to share with you just a few more pictures from that scene. And those gals up on the left-hand corner were just fellow teammates that we worked together, even though one of them is in Delaware, one of them is in Minnesota, and each of them played a role in keeping me motivated and on track and accountable as I worked to earn a spot on this amazing adventure. So, all right, here's Greg.
All this why we're here. And I think it's really fitting that we're at the Lincoln Memorial today. At a moment in time where our country has been so divided, he represents the sort of the unionization or bringing everyone back together. And last night I spoke to you all about the fact that we're a group of relatively ordinary people that are doing extraordinary work as a team. We use the power of our collective voice as a force for good. We may have political differences, we may be different ages, races, religious persuasions, but we as a team have found a common goal in our mission. And I was provided with an amazing quote by Lincoln that I just wanted to share with each of you today, which says, "I am for those means which will give the greatest good for the greatest number." And I think that really represents exactly what we're doing. When we say that we are focused on getting safer products into the hands of everyone, we have said over and over again that everyone means everyone. And the way in which we will do that is by changing the laws in the United States of America, so that every citizen of this country has access to safer products and keep them comfortable about the products that they're putting on their bodies, on their children for generations to come. And so when you all sit here in this moment, I want to pay respect to Abraham Lincoln, who brought our country together at a time when there was a lot of fighting and we were divided over issues that we all know. And to think just for one moment about how we have been able to put aside our differences and to use our collective voice as a force for good for the greatest number of people. So I just want you all to know that I'm super proud today. I'm super proud because the work we do is important today and every single day. And I want to thank you all for making this movement a possibility, because it would never happen without every single one of you. I hope you all just take one moment to recognize the importance of this moment, to recognize the importance of using our collective voice as a force for good. So here's to all of you, and here's to the amazing day we're about to have. So cheers, everyone.
Okay, let's see if I can get past this. There we go. So you can see she's just so dynamic, and it was just one of the things that was so cool about this, because there are so many issues in our world of today that we could all come together on and agree on, and this just happens to be one of those for the most part. So anyway, it was cool to see everybody come together for this. Okay. Why do we advocate for clean beauty laws? I want to give you at least a little bit of background on all of these bills that are floating around out there so that you can get on board in supporting them. So first off, it is known that the personal care and cosmetic industry is currently underregulated, like terribly underregulated in a shocking sort of way. And as a result, harmful and questionable ingredients are allowed to be used in everyday beauty products. And when I say beauty products, I'm talking not just beauty. We're talking, body wash, lotions. We're talking kids body wash, kids bubble baths, stuff like that. We are talking, shampoos, deodorants, sunscreens, all the things. And most of us use at least a handful of these types of products every day. So it's something that impacts all of us, and it is something that we are starting to make these connections. Science is showing that the impact and the accumulation and our exposures to these toxic chemicals is wearing on us, and it is definitely connected to a lot of health issues. So that's the problem. Let's talk about the solution. So lack of transparency in the supply chain can make it hard for companies like Beautycounter to truly formulate clean products. It takes so much work and effort, which is why we need Congress to pass bills that require ingredient and manufacturing transparency, and that ban the use of harmful chemicals in the products we use every day. So we have to advocate to ensure that all personal care products are safer, not just Beautycounter products, right? We want to help ensure that all across the board, industry-wide, you can confidently go into your local drugstore, buy something off the shelf and trust that it's safe. And this conversation goes beyond just personal care products. Our advocacy is also just about our health. It's about the environment. It's about protecting the people that we love from the effects of these toxic chemicals. So I thought I'd give a quick little like what the bills would do and what they will not do, because when people talk about regulation, everybody gets a little, what are you talking about? We don't need more regulation, right? So, but this is what we're talking about. This is like just fundamental framework kind of stuff. This is all stuff that you probably assume is already happening in the personal care industry, and it's shockingly, it's just not. So what the Senate and House bills that I'm going to show you, what they would do is create a system for the FDA to review ingredients for safety. There isn't one right now, which is shocking. It would allow products with harmful health impacts to be recalled from the market, which again, you'd think that, you know, when somebody's hair starts to fall out, or we find asbestos in, you know, little makeup sets for little girls, you'd think that we could recall that, but the FDA can't do that. They don't have any authority in the space. So, and then they would also help protect consumers from harmful ingredients in the products that we use every day, because they could actually do something about that, right? So what the bills would not do is they would not stifle small businesses. This is not bills that are going to impact, you know, small makers of soaps and things. You know, there's a lot of small businesses that make really lovely products and stuff. This isn't about that. These bills would also not subject cosmetic companies to the same process that like drugs have to go through. So we're not talking that extreme either. And it would not regulate ingredient suppliers directly. Instead, it would regulate cosmetic manufacturers who create finished goods like Beautycounter. So, okay, now that we got that all clear, let me tell you about what these bills are. So one of them is the Safer Beauty package. So this is a package of 4 pieces of legislation, and I'll give you a quick little overview of each of them. Sorry, I'm getting like, so I should have turned off my notifications before I started this, the time of day when TK starts sending me a bunch of messages. So, all right, but okay. First thing is the Toxic Free Beauty Act. And this is an act that would ban the most toxic chemicals from beauty and personal care products. And we're talking mercury, formaldehyde, parabens, phthalates, phenylenediamines, I never pronounce that correctly, and an entire class of PFAS, forever chemicals. So you would think most of these would have already been banned, but no, again. But PFAS are these forever chemicals that you've been hearing a lot about in the news lately, because they are everywhere and they are a problem. So it's bringing attention to the fact that they're in the cosmetic and personal care space as well. And so making sure that that's included. So that's one of them. The second one is the Cosmetic Fragrance and Flavor Ingredient Right to Know Act. This would require the disclosure of the secret, unlabeled, and often toxic fragrance and flavor chemicals in our personal care and beauty products. So similar to what we passed here in California, this would be something on the federal level that would require some disclosure of those problematic chemicals. Oops. All right. And then, okay, the third piece of legislation is the Cosmetic Safety for Communities of Color and Professional Salon Workers Act. This would create, not recreate, it would create cosmetic safety protections for women of color and nail, hair, and beauty salon workers. So it's a really interesting space because those people are exposed much more so than the general population to chemicals of concern because of their environment that they're in. And also it's interesting that professional salons in the past, up until some newer legislation, they didn't even have to, companies did not have to even list ingredients in their products. So there's a lot of transparency needed in that industry, and this is gonna create some of that for them. So then the fourth piece is the Cosmetic Supply Chain Transparency Act. This one's super important because it ensures that the supply chain transparency, so that cosmetic companies can get the information they need from their upstream suppliers to decide and, to formulate safer stuff. If you're not knowing what's in something the ingredient when it gets to you, then how are you supposed to know if you're formulating clean, So again, that's a very helpful piece of legislation. Okay, and then there are two other areas, bills that are out there. One is a ban on PFAS forever chemicals. There's two pieces of legislation under that we at Beautycounter are supporting. One of them is the No PFAS in Cosmetics Act. The other one is the PFAS Action Act. And both of those are related to just getting forever chemicals out of the industry. And then the last one is defining natural in the beauty industry with the Natural Cosmetics Act. So this would create a federal definition for brands using the marketing term natural. Wouldn't that be nice? So that when you buy something and it says all natural, it might mean something. It might mean that there's actually natural ingredients in there. So that's another piece of legislation that's out there that we were raising awareness for and supporting and trying to get co-sponsors behind these bills. So we spent the day with meetings back to back, and I want to share one highlight thing from those meetings. When we met with Representative, well, let's see, did I tell you who we met with? Yes, okay, did I go over that? I feel like I missed that. Let me go back here. There, these are the people that we met with. Skip this slide. So we met with Senator Lisa Murkowski from Alaska, her office. We met with Representative Jared Huffman from California, Representative Mike Levin from California, Senator Dianne Feinstein from California, Representative Doris Matsui from California, and then also Speaker Nancy Pelosi. And I was super excited when I saw Speaker Nancy Pelosi's name on there, just because to get to actually meet with the Speaker's office was kind of cool. And our CEO, Greg Renfrew, came into this meeting with us. And the thing I didn't get to tell you is that up until the last minute leading up to the event, we didn't know if we would be meeting virtually or in person, because we were right on the cusp of things opening back up in the Capitol and all of that. So we found out days before that we'd be meeting virtually, but we were all able to meet as a group. So we had about 20 women from California, Alaska, Oregon, all together in this one room. And when we each had different roles for different meetings. And so we would rotate up to the front of the room when it was our turn. And so the story I wanted to share was I got to be the speaker for meeting with Representative Mike Levin, who is in North County, San Diego. And I've been in his office before, back in 2019, which I showed you that picture. And it was just such a great meeting because they had no clue that this was an issue. They thought the FDA had authority. They thought all the basic things that most of us think. And so they were really surprised to learn about this. When we went through our presentation about these bills, and Mike Levin is currently co-sponsoring that first bill, the Toxic Beauty Safety Act. He's already co-sponsoring that, so I was able to thank him for that. But one of the questions we asked is, are you hearing from your local constituents on this issue? And the gal told us that, yes, absolutely, we are hearing from them, which is good news. Thank you, you guys, because when I tell you reach out, you're doing it and it's working. But she also shared that the whole reason that they are co-sponsoring that particular bill is because of the fact that constituents came and met with them and raised their awareness on this issue. And I was there at that meeting. So it was like full circle to get to see, knocking on that person's door locally and then seeing it reach DC and actually have a name attached to it. And it's just it was just super cool to see the progress of that, you guys. It was awesome. So, okay, let me get back where I was here. So anyway, we had a very successful day of meetings. Of course, we're lucky in California in the sense of, health issues tend to be higher on the priority list and stuff, and people are more receptive and all of that with that. And like I said, we've already passed a couple of pieces of legislation in this space here in California, but it was just also very, like I said, getting to see the full circle, getting to meet these incredible women, to hear their stories about infertility, about cancer, about things that they have found, you know, in their own personal lives, and how important it is for them to get these ingredients out of the products that we're using, and to just raise awareness and protect others. It was pretty exciting. And these are just amazing women right here that you're looking at. So we had, from that moment, 30 minutes to run back to our hotel, throw on a fancy dress, and go to a dinner, a private event at the Library of Congress. It was so cool, you guys. I can't even explain it. But not very many private events opportunities at the Library of Congress. And we had this beautiful dinner. There's everybody down on the floor. We turned the floor into a dance room later. We also had a representative from Illinois. Her name is Jan Schakowsky, and she has been very active in this space for over a decade. So we gave her a Clean Spirit Award, and we got to hear from her. And I also wanted to share just a very short snippet from her. But she kind of reinstated just everything that I preach and tell you guys every day about the fact that, you know, these harmful ingredients are allowed in the products we use. We haven't updated our legislation in this space since 1938, over 80 years ago. The EU is already banning over 1,400 ingredients. Here in the US, we're up to a whopping 30, and that's not even completely banned. That's like banned or partially restricted. So we have a long way to go, you guys. And so it's just so important that we get some legislation passed in this area and get things rolling, because it's just been silent for too long. So she was super excited to meet this powerhouse group of women. And they actually, her and her husband, stayed and danced with us afterwards because they were having such a great time. And you know, it was kind of a handing off the torch to us, saying, okay, I need you guys to raise your voices. I need you to be part of this. Let's get it done. And so I wanted to share just a little snippet from her speech to us that night.
So in the Congress, we have stacks and stacks of bills that are on the agenda. So how are decisions made on what's a priority? What's going to be the most important thing? And this is where you have to find your voice and know your power, because it's absolutely essential in order to get things moving that regular people, you don't look that regular, but regular people are the ones that really can help set that agenda. If members of Congress who are really good, and especially one thing, and that's counting, like counting votes, if they hear from their constituents, if we mobilize, if we organize, if we call, if we text, if we send on social media, if we put something in the local newspaper about what the needs are, and make sure that we communicate what our demands are to the Congress of the United States, we can lift the issues that are important, our issues.
All right, so you get the idea. But it was a good reminder, and everything, all of the meetings that were held throughout the day were a reminder of this process and how important it is for us to engage, to share our voice. And it was also interesting to learn that it only takes 20 touch points, like for them to hear from their local constituents. Once they hit that 20 range, that is when an issue gets elevated to the point of actually putting some staff in it to look at it, you know? So it's not that many people. And so you can see how when we actually mobilize and do things together and activate at the same time, it really shines a light on specific pieces of legislation and it helps move things forward. So it was really incredible to just be part of that. We had an amazing magical night dancing and just having a great time together and celebrating the work that we had done. And you can see the Capitol building behind us. We're across the street at the Library of Congress. It was just like a magical, amazing evening. And then the next morning when we woke up, we had a science symposium where we brought in a panel of experts on endocrine disruptors, fertility, environmental health, and then like issues specifically related to people of color. And so that was just a great experience too, to get exposed to people that are experts in these areas, to hear kind of the issues, to be able to ask questions specifically, you know, it's things that come up in our businesses or as we're communicating with our clients. Questions like, you know, why is my dermatologist still recommending a sunscreen that's loaded with toxic ingredients? You know, why is this, what do we do about this? And how do we communicate about that? And if you want to get information on that, please reach out to me, because it is so important that we have those conversations with our doctors, with our dermatologists, with each other, and pass this information on, and not like shut down and like, I don't want to hear from you. It's like, no, we need to lean in and have these conversations, because this is all, you know, the science is all there. It's just a matter of getting it all in the right places. And you know, like I said, just having these conversations and raising awareness, because some people have just been doing things a certain way for so long, and they're only reading certain things. They're not going to have access to this information necessarily. I mean, they have access, but I mean, it's just not on your radar, right? So it will be eventually. One of the things that came up in this discussion was that endocrine disruptors are the new tobacco. I mean, that's essentially where it's at. It's not good for us. It's getting promoted by industry, and anyway, it's a mess, right? But we got through that to a certain level, you know, and anyway, we're getting there. We're making progress, guys. So a couple of things I wanted to share though about endocrine disruptors, because it's kind of it's a new buzzword because of tobacco, it being the new tobacco, but it's coming up a lot in a lot of things. And that's because these are ingredients that interfere with our endocrine systems. And so they mimic hormones, and they just mess up all our signaling and stuff that's going on in our bodies. So, but they are widespread, and they are commonly found in many of the personal care products that we use every day. So things that are sitting on the shelves, and they wreak havoc on our health. They've been linked to infertility, impaired thyroid, low levels of testosterone, sperm count, low sperm count, cancer, cognitive deficits, heart disease, obesity. All of these things have connections to these endocrine disrupting chemicals. And a disproportionate amount of those fall onto like the BIPOC, people of color communities, women in particular, because of the high concentration of them and products that are marketed to them. So it's like a whole other issue. So there's like a justice issue to it. The effects of endocrine disruptors too, what we're finding now is that they are transgenerational. So the impacts of them don't stop with you. It goes on to the next generation, and then the next generation. We know that much so far. So Lord only knows how far it goes. But so the point is, like, you're empowering when you clean yourself up, you're cleaning up future generations too. So don't stop. And then the other thing was that there are these critical windows of susceptibility that we know. One of them is when you're trying to conceive. And so a lot of doctors nowadays, not all of them, but a lot of them, when somebody's trying to become pregnant, the first thing they have them do is look at their personal care products. And that's a huge thing. If you're not having children right now, you're not aware of that, but the infertility thing is a thing right now. And one of the first things they'll tell people is to clean up their personal care products. So it's one of those things that once you do it, you're cleaner, your body functions better, and your odds of getting pregnant are better. So It's also, early childhood is another pivotal time because that's, you're developing so fast, and adolescence is another one of those times. We also talked a little bit about menopause because if you're like my age, that's my question. Like if it's a big deal in adolescence, I'm pretty sure it's probably a big deal in menopause, right? Because you're going through such huge hormonal shifts during that period of time. And the doctors and experts there agreed, but they also had to say there's really not a lot of science in our age group, as women in their 50s and older, they're just not part of research. Women are barely part of research, medical research as it is. A lot of the stuff is done on white men. And yeah, we got a ways to go in that department too. That's a whole other issue. So anyway, but it was great to spend the time with them, learned so much, and those are bits and pieces of stuff that I'll be continuing to pass on to my clients and friends and family and all of that in time too. So if you ever want to have coffee and talk about that, let me know. So here's my call to action, because this is where we're at. Here's the work we need to do. So I need you to text Better Beauty to 52886. I'll leave it up here for a minute. I need you to join this conversation, add your voice to the pot. We need companies to be held accountable, and we need to act now, and we need to do it while there's this legislation floating out there. While we were there, they were saying they were in the middle of appropriations, so it was going to take a few weeks before they actually got their eyes on this and really dug in to do the research and to decide, whether they're going to co-sponsor and all that stuff to help move this legislation forward. But now is the time, and time to take action, time for them to hear from us at a local level. So when you text that number, you're going to get connected to your representatives, and you're going to be able to keep clicking. Don't stop. Don't just text it and wait. There's actually action you have to take. So click through, and you'll see a little email script that comes in. You can adapt that however you want. And then when you click send, it's going to go out to your local representatives. And we change the messaging on this on a monthly basis based on whatever's current and within this legislation and stuff that we're talking about. So it's time to take some action. We need, some rigorous science-based definitions for clean beauty so that it's not just some buzzword out there. We need it to mean something. We need to get some of these toxic chemicals out of our environment, off of our bodies, out of our health systems, and and we need our government's help to get that done. In the meantime, we as consumers have incredible power. It's up to us to vote with our dollars, look for clean, ask the hard questions. If you're not sure, find out. If something says fragrance and you think it's clean, like call the company, reach out to them, like what is in your fragrance? I need to know. And, get involved and know that your voice makes a difference, and it makes a difference across anything that you want to get engaged in. But I hope you'll join me in being at least part of this clean beauty movement and getting safer products onto the shelf so that we don't have to do this anymore. so that we can trust that things are safe. And thanks for being here. Thanks for supporting me. And if you have any questions, you know exactly where to find me. I should stop screen sharing here. Stop seeing messages from TK. You can see my face. And just know that I'm here for you if you need anything. And even if it's not shopping for Beautycounter stuff, like reach out to me. I'm here to help you choose safer and just to learn the things that I've learned so that you can be confident in the choices that you're making and you can protect your health and the health of those around you. So have a good one, and I will talk to you guys soon.